AITA for telling my parents, I'm not changing my name because of their name regret. I 16 am the youngest of my parents' 3 kids. Growing up, I always knew my name was a bit different compared to my siblings. And by different, I mean it didn't fit the family tradition mold that my mom's and dad's side seemed so obsessed with. See, my parents named my siblings after significant family members. My older sister got her name from our grandma on my mom's side, and my older brother got a name that had been in my dad's family for generations. Both names are these super classic, respectable, family-approved names that carry all the weight of family history. So naturally, when they got to naming me, their youngest, everyone just assumed that they'd keep that tradition going. But by the time I came around, my parents were done with the whole appease the family thing. They had already done their duty, honored the family line, and I guess they were fed up with the pressure to keep doing so. So when they had me, they decided to do something different. They wanted to pick a name for me that they actually liked, not just one that would keep the peace at family gatherings. And that's how I ended up with the name Sunny. Yup, Sunny, the name that you'd usually think of as more common for a girl, but with the U instead of an O. It's not some traditional, multi-generational name that comes with a big backstory or tons of family significance. It was just a name my parents liked. And you know what? I've always liked it too. I know people might think it's a bit out there, or too cute, but I like it. I don't think it's girly. I think it's just me. I've always felt like Sunny fit me perfectly. For most of my childhood, my parents seemed to love it too. They always talked about how they chose it because it felt light, happy, and full of hope, how they saw those qualities in me and wanted to give me a name that embodied that feeling. And for a while, that was it. They loved my name, I loved my name, and everything seemed fine. But when I was around 10, I started noticing a shift in how my parents felt about it. I remember one day, out of nowhere, my mom called me by my middle name. It caught me off guard because no one had ever called me by my middle name before, not even my teachers. It wasn't a name I identified with at all, it just felt weird. I remember I told her that it felt strange and asked her to just call me Sunny like always. She apologized, laughed it off, and it seemed like it wasn't a big deal. But after that, every now and then, she'd do it again. Sometimes my dad would do it too. It wasn't constant or anything, just every once in a while, like they were testing the waters. And every time, I'd tell them I didn't like it. I always thought it was kind of strange that they were even trying. I mean, I'd been Sunny for my entire life up until that point. Why start calling me something else? Then, when I turned 13, my parents started getting more direct. They asked me if I had ever thought about using a nickname instead of Sunny. I was confused, because why would I need a nickname for a name like Sunny? It's already short and simple, and besides, I liked it. I told them no, I didn't use a nickname, and I didn't really want to. They didn't push it, but I could tell they were hoping for a different answer. Fast forward to last year, and it got even weirder. They brought up this idea of kids changing their names before graduating high school, and how it could save money if someone hated their name and wanted it changed before their diploma and other official documents had their name on them. I remember just shrugging and saying, yeah, I guess that makes sense if you don't like your name. I was still totally oblivious at this point, thinking they were just making conversation. I didn't realize they were hinting at something much bigger. I even said, man, it must suck to hate your name, and I thought that was the end of it. Then, around 6 months ago, my parents randomly told me they thought I looked like a James and that I could be nicknamed Jamie. I was confused, like, where was this coming from? So I asked them why they thought that, and they said something vague about how I had the look of a Jamie. It was honestly kind of awkward. I told them I thought Jamie was a cool name, but that I liked Sunny better. Then they asked me what I thought of the name Luke. I said I didn't really like it at all. They seemed a bit disappointed, but they dropped it for a while. It wasn't until June that they actually came out and asked me if I would consider changing my name. They sat me down and started explaining how they had picked Sunny sort of impulsively, as a way to rebel against all the family pressure they were feeling at the time. They said that now, looking back, they felt like they hadn't considered how that might affect me as I got older. They told me they felt bad that they had chosen a name that was, in their words, unserious for a boy who was growing up into a man. They said they regretted not giving me a more appropriate name, something that would fit me better as I got older and entered the adult world. Hearing that kind of hurt, all my life, I'd thought my parents loved my name as much as I did. They always used to talk about how they loved its lightness and positivity, and how they wanted me to have a name that brought joy to people. I told them that I still loved my name and that they shouldn't feel bad about choosing it. I said that, to me, it was perfect because it reminded me of how they saw me when I was born, as someone who was going to bring a lot of happiness into the world. I said they shouldn't stress about it now, years later, because I genuinely loved my name and wouldn't want to change it. They seemed to let it go after that, and I thought we were finally on the same page. But last week, they sat me down again. This time, they had actual paperwork for a legal name change, along with 3 names they had picked out for me. They said that they knew this might seem sudden, but they really wanted me to pick one of the names and make the change. They listed the 3 names: James, so I could go by Jamie if I wanted; Luke, the name I'd already told them I didn't like; and Thomas. They said that they'd been feeling a lot of guilt over my name for years, and they didn't want me to be stuck with a name that wouldn't be taken seriously as an adult. They said they wanted me to at least think about their feelings and consider whether my name would hold me back in the future. I was honestly shocked. I had made it clear multiple times that I loved my name and didn't want to change it, and yet here they were, basically begging me to. They even had the paperwork ready, like they were expecting me to just go along with it. I told them, as calmly as I could, that I wasn't changing my name just because they regretted it. I said that how I felt about my name was more important at this point, since it was my name. I said I was proud to be Sunny, and that if they had regrets about their decision, that was something they'd have to come to terms with. I said I appreciated them trying to think about my future, but that I didn't see my name as a problem and wasn't willing to change it for them. They were upset. My mom even teared up a little, and my dad just kept shaking his head like he was disappointed. They tried to tell me that they were just trying to do what was best for me, but I told them that what's best for me is keeping a name that I love, not changing it just to fit some idea of what a serious adult should be. I said that if they had given me a different name at birth, maybe I would have grown to love that one too, but that Sunny was my name and I didn't want to be anyone else. After the conversation where I refused to change my name, things were still pretty tense at home. I could sense my parents' disappointment almost every time we talked. It wasn't just that they disagreed with me, they genuinely seemed sad, like I was rejecting something really important to them. I didn't want to fight with them, but at the same time, I felt I needed to stand up for myself and what I wanted. It was frustrating, to say the least. A week or so after our confrontation, my parents decided they wanted to have a family dinner with me, my older brother, and my older sister. They didn't tell me exactly what the dinner was about, just that we'd all sit down and have a discussion. I knew they weren't done talking about my name, and I had a gut feeling that they were going to bring my siblings into it. I didn't know if they were trying to get more support or if they just wanted to involve everyone, but I wasn't exactly thrilled about it. The day of the dinner came, and I sat down at the table with my family. My brother, Ethan, is 22 and my sister, Grace, is 19. Both of them had always been great siblings to me, and we were close despite our age differences. Ethan is pretty easygoing, and Grace is more the type who sticks up for what she believes in. I think that's why I wasn't too worried about them taking sides. I trusted them to at least listen to me. We started dinner, and everything felt oddly formal. My mom and dad were both clearly on edge, and they weren't making much small talk. Ethan, who was usually chatty, even seemed to notice the tension. He kept giving me looks across the table, like he was wondering what was going on. Finally, once everyone had eaten a little bit and things quieted down, my dad cleared his throat. He looked at me for a moment before turning to Ethan and Grace. We wanted to have this dinner so we could talk about something important, my dad started. His tone was serious, and it was clear he had planned out what he was going to say. It's about Sunny's name. Ethan raised his eyebrows, and Grace glanced between me and my parents, clearly confused. His name, she asked. What about it? My mom stepped in, her voice soft but insistent. Your father and I have been talking to Sunny about his name, and we're worried it won't serve him well as he grows up. We know it's a bit different, and we chose it in a moment of Well, rebellion, I suppose. We're worried now that we didn't think about the long-term impact enough. Grace frowned a little, and Ethan looked over at me, trying to gauge my reaction. I just stayed quiet, waiting for them to continue. We wanted to ask you to what you thought, my dad said, looking at my siblings. Do you think it would be better for Sonny to have a more traditional name? One that might be taken more seriously as he gets older. Ethan looked at me for a moment, then back at my parents. He shrugged. I mean, I've always liked Sonny's name. It's different, yeah, but I think it suits him. I don't know if I'd say he needs to change it. Grace nodded in agreement. Yeah, I've never thought there was anything wrong with it. I actually think it's cool, it's unique, and it fits his personality. My mom sighed, looking a little disappointed by their initial responses. She tried to explain further. We understand that you both like it, and we did too, but we're just worried that it won't be taken seriously. We've talked to Sonny about it, and we even have some other names we think might work better. We just want to know if you think it would be worth considering. There was a moment of silence as Ethan and Grace exchanged glances. Ethan seemed a little unsure, while Grace's expression hardened slightly. She looked directly at me. Sonny, what do you think? Do you want to change your name? I shook my head firmly. No, I don't want to change it. I love my name. I told Mom and Dad that already, but they're still pushing it. I just don't see the point when I'm happy with who I am. Grace nodded, and I could see her getting that determined look in her eyes that she always got when she was about to stand up for something. If Sonny doesn't want to change his name, then I don't think he should have to, she said, her voice strong. It's his name, and he loves it. I don't think we should be trying to force him into something he doesn't want. Ethan chimed in too. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I get that you're worried, but if Sonny is happy with it, that's what matters, right? It's not like his name is some kind of burden. It's just different, and different isn't a bad thing. My parents exchanged a look, and I could see the frustration in my dad's eyes. He leaned forward, his expression a mix of concern and exasperation. We're not trying to force anything, he said, his voice a little sharper than usual. We're just trying to think about his future. We don't want him to be in a position where people don't take him seriously because of his name. My mom nodded, her voice almost pleading. We just want what's best for him. We know he loves his name, but we're thinking about the long term. We don't want him to face challenges because of a decision we made without really thinking it through. Grace shook her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. But if Sonny doesn't see it as a problem, then why are you making it one? He's happy with who he is, and that should be enough. It's not fair to make him feel like he has to change just because you're worried. My dad looked visibly frustrated now, and I could see the tension building in his shoulders. He turned to me, his eyes searching mine. Sonny, we're not trying to make you feel bad. We just want you to think about what we're saying. We've given you some options because we want you to have the opportunity to make a change before it becomes more complicated. We just want you to understand where we're coming from. I took a deep breath, feeling my own frustration bubbling up. I looked at my parents, then at Ethan and Grace, who were both watching me, waiting to see what I'd say. My voice came out steadier than I expected. I get that you're worried, and I understand that you think you're doing what's best for me. But I've told you before, and I'm telling you again now, I like my name. I don't want to change it. I've always felt like it fits me, and I don't see it holding me back. It's my name, and it's part of who I am. I shouldn't have to give that up because you're worried about what other people might think. There was a heavy silence after I finished speaking. My mom looked down at her hands, and my dad just shook his head slightly, like he still didn't quite get it. I could feel the tension in the room, the disappointment hanging in the air. I hated that this was becoming such a big deal, but I couldn't back down on this. It was my name, and it was my choice. Grace broke the silence, her voice calm but firm. Mom, Dad, if Sonny doesn't want to change his name, then that's the end of it. You said your piece, but at the end of the day, it's his decision. We should respect that. Ethan nodded in agreement. Yeah, I think we've talked about this enough. Sonny knows what he wants, and that should be enough for all of us. A few days passed after the family dinner, and things seemed to settle down. My parents weren't bringing up my name anymore, and I thought that maybe they had finally accepted my decision. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I could finally start relaxing again. I thought the whole issue had been put to rest, but I was wrong. One Sunday afternoon, I was in my room, working on some schoolwork, when I heard a knock on my door. It was my mom's soft, familiar knock. I called out a casual "come in," expecting her to ask me something routine, like if I wanted a snack or if I needed anything from the store. Instead, she entered with my dad behind her, both of them holding a stack of papers. My heart sank a little as soon as I saw the serious expressions on their faces. "Sonny, we need to talk," my mom said, her voice gentle but with that edge of determination that I knew all too well. My dad stayed silent, his expression guarded. He had the stack of papers tucked under his arm. I frowned, feeling that unease start to rise again. "About what?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling that I already knew. My dad sighed, stepping forward and setting the stack of papers on my desk. I glanced down at them, and my stomach twisted. There, at the top of the pile, was a government form, the kind you need for legally changing a name. My chest tightened, and I looked up at them, my confusion turning into a mix of frustration and disbelief. "What is this?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. My mom sat down on the edge of my bed, clasping her hands in her lap. "Sonny, we've given this a lot of thought," she began, her voice almost pleading. "Your dad and I, we really believe that this is the right thing to do for your future. We went ahead and started the process for you." I stared at her, feeling my heart pound harder in my chest. "You started the process," I repeated, my voice laced with disbelief. "You mean, you're trying to change my name without my consent?" My dad shook his head, his eyes narrowing slightly. "We're not doing anything without you," he said firmly. "We still need you to choose, Sonny. We picked 3 names that we think would be suitable names that will give you the best chance to be taken seriously in life. We want you to choose from them." He reached down, flipping through the papers until he found a sheet that listed the 3 names. He handed it to me, and I barely glanced at it, the anger and frustration bubbling up inside me. I looked at my mom, then at my dad. "I've already told you I don't want to change my name," I said, my voice rising in frustration. "Why are you still pushing this? I thought we had already talked about it." My mom's face softened, but there was a stubbornness in her eyes that I recognized all too well. "Sonny, we're doing this for you," she said, her voice gentle but unwavering. "We know it's hard for you to see it right now, but we're trying to set you up for success. The names we chose are strong names, names that people will respect." My dad nodded in agreement. "We know you love your name, but this is about more than just that. This is about the opportunities you'll have, the way people will perceive you. We've already come this far, Sonny. We just need you to pick one of these names so we can finalize everything." I felt my hands start to tremble as I looked down at the list. The 3 names they had picked were all fine, normal, traditional names. But they weren't my name, they weren't who I was. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not picking any of these. I don't want to change my name. I thought you understood that. I thought you were finally going to let this go." My dad's expression hardened, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Sonny, you can't just refuse," he said, his voice growing firmer. "We've already done all the paperwork. We're doing what's best for you, and sometimes that means making tough decisions, even if you don't understand them yet." My mom nodded, her eyes searching mine. "We want you to have every advantage in life," she said softly. "We love you, and we don't want something like a name holding you back. We need you to trust us on this." I shook my head, my chest tightening as I felt the tears start to well up. "But it isn't holding me back. It's who I am," I said, my voice cracking. "You can't just change that because you think you know better. I love my name, and I'm not giving it up. I'm not choosing any of these names, and I'm not going along with this." My dad's face was flushed, his jaw set, and my mom looked like she was on the verge of tears. I felt my own emotions swirling: anger, hurt, frustration, and I knew I couldn't keep standing there, arguing with them. Without another word, I turned and walked out of my room, pushing past my dad and heading down the hallway. I could hear my mom calling after me, her voice trembling. "Sonny, please, don't just walk away. We need to talk about this." But I didn't turn back. I went down the stairs, my heart pounding as I tried to hold back the tears that were threatening to spill. I walked into the living room, my hands shaking as I sat down on the couch. I could hear my parents still talking in my room, their voices muffled but tense. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. It wasn't just about the name, it was about them not listening to me, not respecting what I wanted for myself. I understood that they were worried and that they thought they were doing what was best for me, but it felt like they weren't seeing me at all. They weren't seeing that I knew who I was, that I loved who I was. They were only seeing their own fears and doubts. So, AITA for refusing to change my name even though my parents really want me to. Should I be considering their feelings more, or is it fair for me to stand my ground on this?